Okay, now how to communicate like a pro and how to use indifference skillfully in your communication. Okay, now this past Sunday, my colleagues and I went to meet a client. That was the contact person. Meaning, I was the one who would engage the clients more, right? But when we were there and when we were like talking with the client, actually there were like 4 people, right? I noticed, I watched carefully and I noticed my friends were doing better than me, especially one of my friends. His name is Tony. He's a structural engineer. And the other person, we were 3 of us. Tony, structural engineer, Wilson, who is the director of the company, and myself, who's an architect. So I noticed, Tony, let me tell you a little bit about my friends. Okay, Tony is a bit nonchalant and he will nod like minimally or just to things that he truly agreed to. For the rest of the time, he'll not even maintain eye contact with the client. He will speak very minimally, use very few words, and he will just like go like, like that kind of a sound. It's a Kenyan sound where you're just telling the person, okay, go on. You're not necessarily agreeing. Now, I tend to be the opposite of these friends of mine, because also Wilson tends to be a bit extreme, Wilson Ulemse anaweza zone out completely in the middle of like the meeting and just pick up his phone and do other stuff. Now, something that I noticed about this character, because I'm the opposite, I tend to be very agreeable. Like I will nod, I will be like, yeah, I agree, good point and all that. Now, there is something I've noticed about human psychology. If you agree too much, they tend to feel like, okay, we have you in the bag. Now let us focus on this who is hard to get. Now that is Tony and Wilson. Because I noticed the clients were looking at Tony when talking. Everybody was looking at Tony, even more than Wilson, because I told you Wilson tends to be a bit on the extreme. So sometimes you feel like, oh, it's so hard to please this guy, you know what, I give up. But with Tony, they were like, he kind of just gives you just enough attention to keep you talking to him, but then he denies you also just enough to keep you looking for it. Me, on the other hand, I give you all the attention in the world. And I noticed, the clients would just like be like, okay, we have him in the bag already, so we're focusing on Tony. And this kind of gave me an idea. I think, don't agree to everything, right? Be a bit indifferent, because Tony wasn't even maintaining eye contact. He would look at other stuff like that and put his hands in the pocket. Sometimes he's just quiet and silent. Me, on the other hand, I was like, yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Yeah, responding too much. So I think that's how you can use indifference to your advantage and to communicate surgically, right? To use communication. Communication is such a superpower and it intrigues me. That's why I'm becoming a more concerted observer of my surrounding and people. In every communication these days, I'm doing more listening than talking. And I watch the body language, I watch everything. So I watched a lot that day, and that is kind of what I took home with me. So